Welcome back to season 2 of Breaking the Chains, Healing from Emotional and Physical Abuse. I am your host, Kelly. Thank you all for joining. I have exciting news. I have hit 100 plays on all platforms. Thank you all for your support. Therefore, I have merchandise you can buy if you click the link in the description. And here's the merchandise. I have a mug. I have a t-shirt. I have a pillow. I also have a drawstring backpack. Sorry. Please click the link in the description and buy my merchandise. And let's hop on into it tonight. I will be discussing physical abuse. And I am your host, Kelly. So, the definition of physical abuse is the use of physical force that could result in bodily injury, physical pain, or physical impairment. When a victim is in a physical abusive relationship, your abuser will be pinching, biting, punching, choking, pinning you down, and doing much more physical harm to you. If you are experiencing this kind of physical abuse, it isn't okay. Anybody can be physical abused in a partnership, for you can be strong, small, or weak, because any person can be a victim. Also, physical abuse is known as domestic violence. Domestic violence is a pattern of behavior that is used by the abuser to gain or maintain power and control over their innocent partner. Physical abuse happens to anyone regardless of race, age, religion, or gender. Domestic violence can happen in a range of relationships, including couples who are married, living together, or dating. In addition, physical abuse affects people of all backgrounds and educational levels. Physical abusers show behaviors that frighten, intimidate, terrorize, manipulate, hurt, humiliate, blame, injure, or wound their significant other. Here are 6 signs that you are in a physical abusive relationship. Some of these signs of the physical abuse in a relationship coincide with the signs of being in an emotional abusive partnership too. Number 1, your abuser has hit you, beat you, or strangled you now or in the past. These are some of the actions of a physical abusive partner. There are other acts of abuse such as pinning their victim down, biting, consistently hitting you until you have many bruises on your skin. Some victims will make up lies about the bruises by protecting their physically abusive partner, for their abuser has threatened him or her not to notify anyone about the abuse. Personally speaking, I had a close friend years ago that protected her physically abusive partner. She was told by her physician that she was pregnant by her abuser. So she wrote a letter stating to her abuser that she was leaving him. So her physically abusive partner took his deadly device, and the reason I'm saying deadly device so I don't get banned, I think you all know what I'm referring to her house, used the deadly device to her head while pregnant, and unalived her and their baby. Also, he unalived himself. I literally call him a coward to this day because he took a very sweet young lady away from her family and her friends and unalived their baby just to show his violent temper and control over her. It's a warning for all victims of physical abusive partnership. Please leave before it's too late. 2, he or she is possessive. The abuser will check up on you consistently, wondering where you are. He or she will get angry at you for hanging out with certain people that the abuser does not want you to associate with. If you don't do what the abuser says, he or she will get violent toward you. Possessive behavior from the abuser shows in control that he or she wants to maintain over their victim. 3. Your abuser is jealous. A small amount of jealousy is normal in a partnership. However, if your abuser accuses you of being unfaithful, or he or she isolates you from your family and friends, it means their jealousy has went too far. The abuser will be jealous of your relationship with your child or children, family members, friends, and church members. When an abuser is showing an extreme amount of jealousy, this means that he or she isn't secure of themselves. So they are projecting their jealousy onto the victim. 4. He or she constantly puts their victim down by attacking your intelligence, looks, mental health, or capabilities. The abuser blames their victim for the violent outburst and states to you, "Nobody else will want you after you leave me." When a victim has consistently heard put downs from their abuser, then he or she will start believing that they are the problem and not the abuser. When your abuser is constantly putting you down, then you start losing your self-worth and your own happiness. This is a big issue because you don't deserve to feel unworthy in this world. 5. Your abuser will express threats of physical attacks to you and your family. When your abuser is sending you threats through text, voice recordings, or voicemails, save all the abuser's threatening text recordings and voicemails and document it too. Take it to your local law enforcement immediately and file a restraining order or a protective order. 6. He or she will physically abuse you. If your abuser has pushed you, shoved you, hit you, he or she is abusing you, even if it doesn't happen all the time. Please, if you are experiencing any of these signs that you are in a domestic violence situation, please contact the Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Again, the Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. Or text on your cell phone START, START, in all caps to 88788. Again, I will repeat that. You can text on your cell phone also the word START in all caps to 88788, or call 911 immediately. If you are a victim of physical abuse, then the law enforcement will keep you and your child or children safe. In a partnership, you should always feel safe. However, there is a lot of physical abusive relationships in today's society. When you don't feel secure and safe in a relationship, please leave immediately. A physically abusive relationship can have a long-term effect on the victim of the abuse. Also, many researchers know that a child or children living in a physical abusive environment, it will take the child or children longer to recover in therapy or counseling. The reasoning for the healing process to take much longer for a child or children living in a physical abusive environment, the physical abuser will threaten the child or children to never report the physical abuse happening, or they will hurt the child or children. Also, the physical abuser will threaten their victim not to notify anyone of the abuse because he or she will hurt him or her. For the victim of physical abuse, that is why it is super important for the victim of physical abuse to leave immediately so that you will never get severely beaten again, and so that your child or children will not witness you being in extreme pain from the physical abuse. Physical abuse is very traumatizing to the victim and for their child or children to watch the physical abuse continue, for it causes such devastating pain from the abuser. Actually, physical abuse begins with your abuser verbally attacking their victim most of the time, and then your abuser will become physically violent with you. When you acknowledge that your abuser is mentally abusing you while screaming at you, then it will most likely escalate to physical abuse. The abuser has so much rage inside of him or her. Your abuser could have experienced watching physical abuse while growing up with their parents or guardians. Also, your abuser could be a victim of abuse while growing up and never told anyone about the abuse or never sought professional help about it. However, this is not the victim's fault. Don't let the physical abuse that you have endured make you start blaming yourself for the actions of your abuser. The horrible physical abuse that you have experienced is the abuser's fault 100%. Anyone that caused physical harm on another individual needs professional help immediately. Also, just because your abuser apologizes to you about physically harming you doesn't mean that he or she will not physically hurt you again. The abuser most likely will blame their victim for physically harming him or her, when in reality there is no good explanation for physically abusing your partner. For example, your abuser will state, "I hit you because you didn't clean the house today." That is just their poor excuse for physically harming you, and it isn't acceptable. Here's another example that your abuser could state, "I knocked you down for you didn't cook me dinner tonight." Your abuser is making unacceptable excuses. There isn't one good reason to physically hurt your partner. A physical abuser is a coward. If you are a victim of physical abuse, please seek professional counseling because it will absolutely help you heal. Always remember that you are worthy of feeling very safe and secure in a partnership. And a victim of physical abuse doesn't feel safe and secure while in a relationship with his or her abuser, because the victim will continue to walk on eggshells, not knowing when or where he or she will be physically attacked by his or her abuser. That is living in a state of fear constantly. When a victim is living in fear constantly, that is not a normal life for him or her. Also, the victim is living in fear for his or her child or children because you don't want your child or children hurt physically by your abuser, and you will not let your abuser harm your child or children. Please don't stay in a physical abusive relationship. Leave before it's too late, or call the domestic hotline at 1-800-799-7233, or text on your cell phone the word START in all caps to 88788, or call 911 immediately, and your local law enforcement will protect you and your children from harm, because you deserve to live in a safe and secure home. Here's also signs of physical abuse. Number 1, bruises, black eyes, welts, lacerations, and rope marks. 2, broken bones. 3, open wounds, cuts, punctures, untreated injuries in various stages of healing. 4, broken eyeglasses refrains, or any physical signs of being punished or restrained. 5. Laboratory finds of either an overdose or underdose of medication. 6. Victims report of being hit, slapped, kicked, or mistreated. 7. Victims' sudden change in their behavior. And also, I would like to state that my merch has just dropped. So if you would like to buy my merch, please click the link in the descriptions. Like I said, all my merch has my logo on it, Breaking the Chains logo. And I have mug, I have a t-shirt, I have a pillow, and I have a drawstring backpack. And I appreciate you all for joining me this evening. So if there's any, there's not, on the next podcast, I will be discussing, like, the, I want to, most likely I'll be discussing, this, boundaries too, and more about restraining orders and things like that with your physically abusive partner. So, and then, so it'll be just like, season 1. So this is season 2 where I'm talking more on, physical abuse. So, it's like there's, physical abuse is, like I said, you can see physical abuse on, a victim's body. So if they have bruises or, bite marks, things like that, or, they could have been held down by restraints. And most times the victims will try to protect their abuser by saying, oh, I fell down the stairs, or, oh, I like the dresser, I fell on top of the dresser, things like that. Because personally speaking, like I said, a friend I had was using excuses about her abuser, and then her abuser used a deadly device, which you all know what I'm referring to, and unalived her, and then he unalived himself. That's why I'm saying I do not want that to happen to anyone out there that is experiencing physical abuse. Or if you have experienced physical abuse, you know what it's like. And I hope you're seeking counseling or therapy. And if you're going through a physically abusive relationship, please leave immediately. And if you have children or a child too, please take you and your children out of the home immediately and get in a safe and secure place. And or if it gets to worst, the worst of the physical, you can call 911. You can call 911, or you can call the domestic. You can call the domestic hotline, as I stated before. Or again, I'm gonna repeat the domestic hotline number, because if there's anyone out there that needs to contact them, the domestic hotline number is 1-800-799-7233. Or you can text on your cell phone in all caps the word START to 88788. Or you can call 911 immediately and state that you are in harm. I believe I have a question, so I would like to ask. What if he hits me every time I drink? So that's a good question. And that usually is what happens. Sometimes they're like intoxicated, or they have used drugs. So what if he hits me every time I drink? It's time to leave. If you know he's a heavily Most likely he's an alcoholic. He's not going to seek help for it, that he and admit he's an alcoholic. Therefore, he can't handle his alcohol, so he's going to come home and keep beating you. So you need to leave immediately and get to a safe and secure place. Sorry, I'm going to grab a drink. Not sponsored by Diet Coke. Not. That's just a joke. Not sponsored by Diet Dr. Pepper. Well, it's just a side joke. Not sponsored by Diet Dr. Pepper. But that was a good question. Because sometimes, like, your partner that's physically abusive is usually could be intoxicated or could be a drug addict. Therefore, they will take their anger out on you. So you need to contact the authorities or leave immediately and find a safe place. What if I have another question? So I will answer it. What if the person really didn't state, they just said what if? What if he does what? He really didn't state what. Let me see if the person will state what. Okay, what if he hits my kids when they make B's on their report card? Call 911 immediately. Call 911. 911 most likely will call the Department of Children's Services, which is DCS, and they will come investigate. However, I would just leave with my kids. After when 911 got there, I would leave with my child that got beat and get them to a safe place and never go back to the man that hit my child because my child made a B. Because that's no reason. You don't just hit children or anyone at that. Thank you for the question. That was a very good question. So, if there's not any more questions, but I see another question coming in. If there's another question coming in, I'll answer it before I wrap up tonight. And I will state that I do have merch. Like I said, I hit 100 views, which is great on all platforms. So I have merch. Click on my link in the description if you want to buy merch. I have a mug. I have a t-shirt. I have a pillow. Also, I have a drawstring backpack. Okay, I have another question. What if he hits me if I don't want... Okay, I'm not kind of following this question. Is this a dad? Or was... I'm not kind of getting this question. I mean, like... If I want to date a guy, is it a father that... Why would your... So, I don't think I should comment on this one because it's kind of a controversial subject. I mean, I will state that the question was, what if this person hits me? In other words, they don't want to be with you. They want to be with someone else. But it's kind of controversial. So, and they start hitting you because they don't want to be with you anymore. They already found someone else. Just leave. Call the cops. Actually, call the cops first. I always suggest if the person's already hitting you or has hit you bad, call the cops immediately. Get the cops to come out. And while the cops are there, tell them you're going to leave and go to a safe place. And you do not want. And the next best thing to do is probably turn off your location on your cell phone so your abuser will not find your location on your cell phone. So if there's no more questions, Um, but like, if there's no, I will like to state about physical abuse though. It is physical abuse is known as domestic abuse, and it is on the rise in the U.S. And so like, let me state. I'm gonna state again the signs of physical abuse again. So if anyone is experiencing this, then you can leave, or has experienced this, shows that you were in a physical abusive relationship. Number one, you have bruises, black eyes, welts, lacerations, and rope marks. Two, broken bones. Three, open wounds, cuts, punctures, untreated injuries in various stages of healing. Four, broken eyeglasses, frames, or any physical signs of being punished or restrained. Five, laboratory finds of either an overdose or underdose of medications. Six, victims report of being hit, slapped, kicked, or mistreated. Seven, victims sudden change in their behavior, meaning the victim could be like the victim before the abuse was very talkative, and then they all of a sudden they got very quiet, shy, because they're in an abusive relationship, so they're scared to say anything because their physically abusive partner has warned them, do not tell anybody, or they will hurt him or her worse. So they're scared to say anything, so they're like really shy, really quiet. Whereas before the abusive relationship, they were very talkative, social, and now they're not social, they're shy, they're scared to say anything because of their physical abuse that they endured. That's how because like I said, I personally experienced this with a friend years ago, and like a victim's behavior will change if they're in a physical abusive relationship. It will change. That person will be different than they were before, like before the relationship. If they, were very outgoing, if they were like going to every time they got invited to like a wedding, um, say a birthday party, they were always there. Then they got in an abusive relationship. They quit going to weddings. They quit going to birthday parties because they were scared to get out there. And they were afraid that if they told anyone that their physically abusive partner will hurt them, because they have their physical abusive partner has threatened them. So you better not tell anyone or I will hurt you worse. And that happens a lot of times. So, thank you all for joining me for my second season of Breaking the Chains, Healing from Emotional and Physical Abuse. I am your host, Kelly, and my merch is now out. And so, if you click on the link in the description, you can buy my merch. I'll state again, I have a mug, I have a t shirt, I have a pillow, I have a drawstring backpack. And also I have a hoodie. So I have merch if you all want to buy. I will greatly appreciate it. And thank you all for watching, and thank you all for your continued support. And I hope you all have a magnificent night.